You've wanted to be a racer your whole life. The car, the track, the speed, it's your life. The roar of the engine, the smell of burnt rubber, the moment when everything else disappears. Welcome to other life. Today, you are a Korean racer. Enjoy the ride, because it's your dream. You are a Korean racer. You stand on the starting grid in Incheon, the night wind from the Yellow Sea hitting your face, and your heart beats as if it wants to break out of your chest and fly forward along the track ahead of you. The city lights reflect on the asphalt like thousands of tiny souls, and in that moment you understand, your entire life is one long acceleration. You are a Korean racer. And this story is about you. You were born in the small district of Songpar, where concrete high-rises stand shoulder to shoulder, and the mornings smell of kimchi and exhaust fumes. Your father worked as an engineer at a Hyundai factory, your mother as a math teacher. They dreamed that you would become a reliable person, go to university, get a good job, buy an apartment in a nice area. The Korean dream. Stability. But from the age of 3, you would freeze by the window whenever cars drove by. You didn't see transportation in them. You saw freedom. At 9 years old, your father took you to the kart track in the outskirts of Seoul for the first time. You sat in a small cart, your hands gripped the steering wheel, and the moment the gas pedal went down, the world changed. The engine roared, the tires squealed, and you laughed, loudly, childishly, without restraint. That day you felt for the first time what speed truly was. Not just movement. Speed as a way to be yourself. You are a Korean racer. Even then. Your parents smiled at first. It's a hobby, they said. But when you started skipping extra math classes, when racing magazines with photos of Senna and Schumacher appeared in your room instead of textbooks, the smiles disappeared. You have to think about the future, your mother repeated. Your father was silent, but disappointment was visible in his eyes. You nodded, agreed, and then secretly went to the kart track on the last bus. You studied at night, slept for hours, and spent every free minute behind the wheel. You lied to your parents. You lied to yourself that it's not for long. But even then you knew, this was forever. At 17 you won your first serious junior championship. The trophy stood on the shelf next to your textbooks. Your mother cried, from pride and fear at the same time. Your father only said, "Don't forget who you are." You remembered those words. Because being a Korean racer means carrying an entire country on your shoulders, a country used to winning through discipline, not dreams. You entered university, mechanical engineering, to calm your parents. But your Real Academy was the track. You trained on an old Hyundai Genesis coupe that you and your enthusiast friends assembled from parts. At night you drove out to abandoned road sections near Seoul, where the asphalt was uneven and the police sometimes set up raids. You learned to read the road like a book, every turn, every bump, every gust of wind. You crashed, wrecked cars, got up and drove again.
You're watching Other Life. Hit play and forget where you are. Tell us, in the comments, whose life would you like to try next?
At 21 you were noticed. A small team from the Korean Super 6000 series offered you a test driver position. The salary was tiny, but it was a chance. You dropped out of university in your 3rd year. Your mother stopped talking to you for 2 weeks. Your father said, "If you fall, don't come back." You nodded and left for your first race. You are a Korean racer. And this is where real life began. Your first race was a disaster. You started well, stayed in the top 5, but on the last lap you overestimated your abilities. Overheated brakes, locked wheels, and a slide into the gravel. The car flipped over. You climbed out yourself, unharmed but with a shattered ego. The team was silent. In the locker room you sat staring at your trembling hands. The thought spun in your head, maybe they're right. Maybe this isn't for me. But the next morning you returned. With bruises, with pain in your back, but you returned. You began analyzing every mistake. Videos, telemetry data, conversations with engineers until 3 in the morning. You slept in the garage. You ate instant noodles. You trained on the simulator until your eyes watered. You turned yourself into a machine. The Korean discipline that had been instilled in you since childhood now worked for your dream. A year later you won your first race in the series. When you stood on the podium, the Korean flag was raised above you, and the anthem played so loudly it made your ears ring. In that moment you felt something greater than joy. You felt that you carried the hopes of thousands of boys just like you from Sonpa, Busan, Daegu, those who secretly dream of speed. You grew quickly. Teams noticed. You were invited to the International GT3 Series, then to Formula E tests. You moved to Europe, but every time the plane landed in Incheon, you understood, home is not just a place. Home is the smell of Seoul streets after rain, your mother's voice on the phone, your father who eventually started watching your races on TV. You are a Korean racer. And the world began to recognize you. The press wrote about the Korean phenomenon. Sponsors lined up. You appeared on magazine covers in a racing suit with the Taegukgi flag. Girls wrote to you on social media. Childhood friends were proud. But inside, emptiness grew. You barely saw your parents. You missed your best friend's wedding. You couldn't remember the last time you ate a home-cooked meal made by your mother. Speed was devouring your life. And then came the collapse. It was a race in Suzuka. Rain. You were going for pole position, the car perfectly set up. Aquaplaning on the third corner. You lost control for a fraction of a second. Impact. The sound of tearing metal. Darkness. You woke up in the hospital. 2 fractured vertebrae, concussion, multiple bruises. The doctors said, it could have been worse. But your career is over. You lay there staring at the ceiling. For the first time in many years you weren't thinking about the next lap. You were thinking about how many times you had said later to your loved ones. How many times you had chosen the track over home. Your mother flew to Japan. She sat by your bed and was silent. There was no reproach in her eyes, only endless fatigue. That evening you cried for the first time in a long time. Not from physical pain. From pain in your soul. You realized that the victories you had collected had not filled the emptiness. They had only made it bigger. You are a Korean racer. And this is where the real path began. Recovery took 8 months. You returned to Korea. You lived with your parents. Your father, who used to be silent, now made you coffee every morning and sat next to you. You barely talked about racing. You talked about life. About how he himself had once dreamed of becoming a racing engine engineer but chose stability. About how your mother was afraid of losing her son. About what it means to be Korean, to carry duty. But duty to whom? You began training again. Not like a machine. Like a human being. Morning runs along the Han River, meditation, work with a psychologist. You learn to feel not only speed, but also silence. You returned to the team, but you were different. Not hungry for victories. But aware. Your first race after the comeback was a failure. You finished 10th. The press wrote, the Korean phenomenon is broken. You smiled for the cameras and said the right words. But inside you knew, this was not the end. This was the beginning of a new lap. You started helping young racers. You created a small academy in Seoul. You told them not only about technique, but also about the price. That speed is not only adrenaline. It is responsibility. To yourself. To those who wait at home. And now here you are again. The final race of the season. World Championship. The track in Yeongam, your native land. The stands are filled with Korean flags. You stand on the starting grid, and in your headphones you hear the engineer's voice. Are you ready? You close your eyes. All these years flash before you. Karting at 9. Your mother's tears. The first trophy. The crash in Suzuka. Your father's hands holding yours in the hospital. All of this is part of you. Start. You are a Korean racer. You go into the first corner leading. The car obeys perfectly. Every lap is like meditation. You are not fighting the track. You are dancing with it. You feel every bump, every gust of wind. You are not thinking about victory. You are thinking that every lap is gratitude. For life. For the opportunity to feel. On the last lap you are still leading. The strongest drivers in the world are behind you. But you are calm. Because you have already won. Not the trophy. But yourself. The finish line. Checkered flag. The roar of the crowd. You stop the car and park firm. You remove your helmet. Tears flow down your face. Not from the joy of victory. From understanding. You are a Korean racer. You have reached the top. But the most important victory is that you did not lose yourself along the way. After the race you returned home. Not to an apartment in Seoul, but to your parents. Your mother cooked samgyetang. Your father opened a good bottle of soju. You sat at the table until late at night. You told stories. They listened. For the first time in many years you were simply a family. The next day you stepped out onto the balcony. Seoul shone with lights. Somewhere down below, cars were driving. Ordinary people going to work, on dates, home. You smiled. You were no longer running from them. You had become part of this world. You are a Korean racer. But now you know, speed only makes sense when there is a place to return to. This story is not about trophies. Not about fame. It is about how you, an ordinary guy from Songpar, chose a path that almost broke you. How you fell, got up, and kept going. How you learned to value not only the finish, but every lap on the way to it. You are a Korean racer. And if right now you are reading these lines and feel that familiar beat in your chest, don't extinguish it. But remember, true victory is when you can stop and say, I lived. Not just raced. You lived. You are a Korean racer.
Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Every week, a new life awaits. Thank you for spending this life with us. That's it for today. Take care. And until next time, improve your life every day.